Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk all things health and healing from a holistic perspective. And today will be no different. Today we're going to talk about the signs and symptoms of a candida or yeast overgrowth. Now, here's why this is important, because when often you hear yeast or candida overgrowth, you don't really know what that means in terms of consequences of health. But when I break down these signs and symptoms, you're going to see how it's connected to all of these conditions that are so common that we quite often overlook, and we treat the symptom but never address the cause, so the symptoms never go away. So we're going to dive deeply into how candida is not only affecting, your life from a health standpoint, it literally can be affecting your life from a standpoint of longevity as well too. Because things like candida and parasites, they slowly but surely take seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and eventually years off of your life, okay? And the best way to look at them is that they're little sort of parasites that are pricking away at everything that you need in your life to be healthy, happy. And what you'll notice is that they take your health, your happiness, literally away from you, okay? So we're gonna dive into what are some of the causes of candida overgrowth, because how we look at it from the outside looking in, we look at it from a standpoint of, I got a yeast infection. We look at it from the standpoint of, I got athlete's feet. We look at it from the standpoint of, I have the brown toenail. You look at it from the standpoint of, I have a jock itch, okay? But we don't look at it from the standpoint of how it's affecting everything, okay? We just think it's this minor detail, but it's actually a minor detail that's creating major problems, okay? So what are some of the causes? Taking antibiotics. When you take antibiotics, it not only kills the good bacteria, but it kills the bad bacteria as well too, okay? So killing the good bacteria is what's sort of staving off all of this bad bacteria and yeast overgrowing in the body. So when you take an antibiotic, you're killing the good and the bad. And when you kill the good, you let the bad go rampant, including yeast in the body. So that's one of the telltale signs of taking antibiotics quite often, because most people, especially women, when they take an antibiotic, the doctor will automatically go ahead and give them an antifungal as well too, because they know that the antibiotic causes the fungus overgrowth or the candida overgrowth, okay? Number two, an unhealthy microbiome, okay? The microbiome is just sort of this balance or this garden of good bacteria and some bad bacteria. But the good always outweighs the bad, okay? And so when you have an unhealthy microbiome, all of that good bacteria, which is essential for your health, not only in terms of like digesting food, but it's essential in maintaining your health. It's essential for creating neurotransmitters like serotonin, which keeps you happy. So this is how I'm saying candida could literally make you depressed, okay? So an unhealthy microbiome, not having enough good bacteria in your gut. Number three, a diet high in carbs and sugar, because a diet high in carbs and sugar feeds candida. It feeds yeast. That's its food, okay? So, and when you start to look at what we're eating today, we're eating a lot of refined carbohydrates that are feeding these yeast and candida in our body, and that's why they're growing and exploding, okay, and affecting our health. So it's so important that we start to get rid of a lot of these unhealthy carbs and sugar. That'll be bread, that'll be pasta, that'll be cookies, cakes, muffins, things of that nature. Getting rid of those unhealthy carbs that turn into sugar in our body and feed the yeast. They feed the candida, okay? Number four, which is surprising for a lot of people, but is birth control, okay? When you take birth control pill, they can potentially cause a candida overgrowth or a yeast overgrowth, okay? So taking birth control pills, and the unfortunate thing is, a lot of times women will be on birth control pills for years and years and years. And as a result of that, you're constantly affecting your microbiome, constantly, feeding this candida or yeast in the body as well too. All right, number five is diabetes, which makes sense because diabetes is an issue with blood sugar. And quite often, and it's always an issue with having too much sugar in the blood. And the more sugar you have in the blood, it will stimulate or cause the overgrowth of this yeast in the blood, okay? And the thing about diabetes is that the more sugar you have in your body, especially this unhealthy sugar, not talking about healthy fruits, but this unhealthy sugar that we see and added sugar that we see in refined carbohydrates, it makes the body acidic too, which is a perfect environment for Candida or yeast as well too. High stress levels, because high stress levels lead to high cortisol levels. That will also cause you to have issues with Candida as well too, because it affects the microbiome. And then a weakened immune system as well too will actually cause you to have issues as well too, because that's what is actually fighting off or staving off this actual issue with a Candida or yeast overgrowth as well too. So what you're gonna hear me say is interchangeably Candida and yeast, but it's the same thing in the body. So I'm gonna just refer to it as Candida, okay? Now, what are the major issues? Some of the other major issues when it comes to having Candida overgrowth. Well, the issue is that Candida loves sugar, and it uses a process called fermentation, okay? The same process they use with beer and the same process they use with things like kombucha, okay? This fermentation process causes the yeast to create toxins, and two of these toxins, one you're familiar with, is alcohol. So the same way you drink alcohol, when you have a yeast overgrowth and you feed it with sugar, it's creating alcohol in your body, okay? And alcohol is a toxin. That's why they say that it intoxicates you, okay? It also creates another toxin called acetaldehyde, okay? And these are very dangerous to the body. They make the body very acidic. And the body in an acidic state is in a weakened state, okay? The immune system is compromised. The body is compromised. The body is inflamed whenever it's acidic, okay? So let's get into some of these signs and symptoms that you have a Candida overgrowth in your body, okay? Number one is oral thrush. Oral thrush is essentially when you stick your tongue out, what you'll notice is that there's a white coating over your tongue. And your tongue should look like a pink, you know, even a slightly reddish pink. Not too red, but it should be pink and it should be uniform throughout the tongue, okay? But if you look on your tongue, you stick your tongue out, look in the mirror, check the inner cheeks, check the back of the throat, and if you see white patches, or especially when you wake up in the morning, you notice there's a white coat over your tongue. And let's say you take a tongue brush and you scrape it and you see that white coating coming off, that is a sign of Candida overgrowth in the body, okay? That's one of the telltale signs that you have Candida overgrowth in the body. Now, I've seen people who it's hard to tell when they look at their tongues or the throats or inside of their cheeks. And they still have a Candida overgrowth. But more than likely, you will definitely see this as a problem. You'll see that you have a white coating either on the tongue, inside of the cheeks, or in the back of the throat, or on the tonsils as well too. That is a telltale sign, okay? Because why? Candida loves moisture, okay? And what better place to be in the mouth, okay? And the folds of the body, okay? For a woman and their genitals. It's like a perfect place to hide out. And even with men, that's what with men, we call it a jock itch, okay? But Candida loves moisture, okay? It loves moisture and it loves sugar, okay? So that's probably the first place that you're gonna see it. Number two is you're gonna notice that you have fatigue all the time. And the reason why you have fatigue is because more than likely the Candida is consuming up a lot of your nutrients. And particularly is consuming a lot of your vitamin B6, your magnesium, and fatty acids, okay? And magnesium is key to you sort of having energy, because when you don't have enough magnesium, you're going to be chronically fatigued, okay? And guess what? The Candida is consuming your magnesium, okay? That's what makes these type of situations so horrible, is that when you have this overgrowth of a Candida or a parasite, they're taking and not giving, okay? It's not a mutual, relationship. It's a parasitic relationship, okay? Number three, a weakened immune system. You're gonna be constantly having these reoccurring infections. Okay, that's what you'll constantly see, especially when you have Candida overgrowth, because the Candida, it probably started in your gut, but now it's all over your body. And when I say it's all over your body, because it seeps into the bloodstream, and once it's in the bloodstream, wherever the blood go, it can go. Okay, and this is why it can cause your immune system to be constantly fighting off the Candida, which means that if you get another type of infection, the immune system would be too busy to focus in on that infection. And also over the long run, the immune system constantly working like that is going to be overworked. Okay, so this is why you're going to see people having these, constant infections. Which leads to number 4. You're going to typically see constant yeast infections. So if you're having these recurrent yeast infections, it also can lead to UTIs, urinary tract infections as well too, in some cases that I've seen. So you'll see yeast infection because, again, it's an overgrowth of yeast. Okay, so again, most people think that when a yeast infection is the only way that you're gonna know that you have a Candida overgrowth, but that's not the only way, okay? But it is one of the ways, okay? And it's an outward way that you can kind of see, oh, I have a problem here. But what you need to think of is if there's a problem there, there's a problem everywhere, okay? It doesn't localize in the body. It wants to spread and take over everything, okay? Number 5, digestive issues. Because typically what you're gonna see is typically a Candida overgrowth starts in the gut because the gut microbiome has been compromised. And as it becomes compromised, this Candida is gonna run rampant, okay? Number 6, nail and skin issues, okay? You're gonna see things like brown toe, which is for a whole nother video, so check that out. You're gonna see microbiome issues on the skin because we have a microbiome on our skin too, okay? That protects us, okay? That acts like an antibiotic. But once this microbiome on the skin becomes compromised, either by using these antibacterial soaps or lotions or, whatever you're using, they can compromise the microbiome on the skin, which could lead to a Candida overgrowth on the skin, which could lead to a rash, etc. Okay, but it also can lead to athlete's foot as well too. Okay, and it also could lead to, if it's a worsened condition, Candida overgrowth could be a sign and symptom by eczema or psoriasis as well too. So your eczema that you're constantly having an issue with and you're battling with could be a result of a Candida overgrowth that could be stemming from you consuming too much milk as well too, because of the sugar, lactose in milk. It always leads back to sugar in many cases, okay? Joint pain, okay? Number 7, joint pain. And the reason why you're having joint pain is because, again, the Candida enters into the bloodstream, okay? And now it can get into the joints, into the muscles. And now that it's in the muscles, it can cause the stiffness and the swelling as well too, especially in the hips and knees. So if you're one of those people who you're constantly having stiffness in the hips and knees, it could be as a result of having a Candida overgrowth that is now in the joints in the hips and knees as well too. Number 8, brain fog. And I need to do a whole video on this, so look out for a video coming up on this brain fog as well too. But again, it goes back to what I was mentioning before. Candida creates its own toxins, and those toxins being alcohol and acetaldehyde. And what does alcohol do to the brain? Okay, alcohol will cause the brain to not think as quick as possible, lose memory, not be cohesive. And isn't that brain fog? Okay, so if you have a Candida overgrowth, it can lead to that as well too. Number 9, and this is probably one of the other very, very well-known symptoms, is intense sugar cravings. And sugar cravings don't always mean cookie, cakes, and pies. Sugar cravings could be always wanting some form of carb. It could be rice. It could be some form of bread. It could be some pastry, okay? But constantly craving that, especially at night. As you guys know, I always say, the freaks come out at night. So that Candida is gonna really wake up at night. So if you're one of those people who after every meal, you have to have something sweet, or right before bed, you need something sweet, that's probably the yeast, which again hijacks you. It hijacks your taste buds and causes these intense sugar cravings. Okay, just like in the alien movies, where you see in a lot of the alien movies where the alien gets inside of the human and starts controlling it, telling it what to do. Well, guess what? Candida does the same thing. And the unfortunate part is that, you know, our diet and sugar is the socially accepted addiction. Nobody, when you have a sweet tooth, comes at you like, what are you doing with your life? Nobody's trying to put you in rehab when you have a sugar addiction. So it's a socially accepted addiction. So that works out really good when it comes to Candida as well too, okay? And then the bonus that I'll give you is autoimmune conditions. Because quite often when you have autoimmune conditions like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, lupus, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, scleroderma, when you have these conditions, they all stem from a condition known as leaky gut. That's another video that I've done. Go check that out. But when you have a leaky gut, it's going to cause your immune system to go haywire and become overactive. And the condition only tells you where it's happening at. But it's essentially an autoimmune condition where the immune system is attacking itself. Where it attacks itself depends on where you have the weakness in the body. So if the weakness in the body is in the blood, then it's lupus. If it's in the nervous system, then it's multiple sclerosis. If it's in the joints, then it's going to be rheumatoid arthritis. Okay? But essentially, that could stem from you having a yeast or Candida overgrowth, which causes these micro tears, an unhealthy lining in the gut, which creates these openings, and now is creating these toxins flowing into the bloodstream, creating this essential effect with the immune system where it's going haywire, trying to figure out why is this in the bloodstream, okay? So those are the causes and symptoms and signs of a Candida overgrowth. So if you have issues, any of these sound very familiar with you, okay? If you have these in any combination, and it is definitely probably a sign and symptom or a time that you now need to do something about the yeast in your body. And I highly recommend doing my detox, because again, part of the detox is a parasite Candida cleanse, but you're also going to clean out your gut with the Tommy Detox that you get together with the detox, either the 14-day or 28-day, or if you want to join my group detox that happens 3 times a year, go check that out on my website. You can do that as well too. But you got to get rid of the sugar out of your diet. You got to correct that. And that's where you start with this. Thanks for watching this video, but be sure to check the next video out that's right here. But everything I talk about is how do we take a holistic and natural approach to healing other than a man-made approach? And also, how do we prevent dis-ease in the body as well too? Because, you know, they say